Hey, all right, we're live. We're going to start just a minute or two early this week because, well, I joined last week. Well, I joined, but couldn't stay live last week. We had an internet outage here for some reason and couldn't get my phone to work. So couldn't go last week. So we'll do two minutes early this week. That's okay. Let me get disclaimers out of the way. We'll jump into it. This is the weekly live broadcast pretty much every Thursday evening, 7 o'clock Central. This is where I am, unless we have an internet outage or something like that. Let's see, what else? We'll talk about whatever you want to talk about. I do my best to respond to all the chat that comes in during the broadcast itself in the live chat, unless you're talking to each other, which is fine. I just skip over those typically. We can talk about whatever you want. We can have disagreements. We can have debates. It doesn't really matter what we talk about, in my opinion, but I do ask you to be family friendly. You keep it polite. You don't argue with it. You can argue, but do it politely. Don't be hateful with anybody. Don't start calling anybody names, cussing, any of those kinds of things. We'll have to kick you out. All right, let's jump into it. We got Chester Hickman here, says, good evening, Chris. Good evening to you too. Good to see you. Joyce from Western Oregon is here. Good to see you, Joy. Heather Brooks says, I was just watching Bayou talking about, is that Bayou? Is that Bayou? I don't know what that is. But it says talking about keeping out predators and barrel locks. I'm not sure who that is, but okay. Hopefully you learned something, I guess. Heather Brooks says, how cool. I don't know what you're talking about, how cool. But either way, that's good. Chester Hickman says, how are the baby bunnies doing? The silver fox babies, they're doing fine. Yeah, I showed them in video on Monday's video that came out because I bred my Tamuk over the weekend, my Tamuk doe. So I gave an update on the silver fox bunnies. They're 4-ish weeks old, almost 5 weeks old now. They're doing fine. They grow out a little bit slow, so they're not super big right now, but they are doing fine, starting to calm down a little bit, not quite as jumpy every time I come around the cage now. Vernon's wanting to know, when will the kits arrive, the new kits? So I guess you're talking about the Tamuks, so that's going to be four more weeks roughly before they're here. Verna says, I was a second like and then took Lucy for a walk, and you made it back already. Must have been a short walk, huh? Dave's here. David Lister says, hey, everybody from McAllister Quail Trail. Good to see you. Andrew says, hey, Chris and everyone from Fairbanks, Alaska. Wow, that's a ways off. Thank you for joining tonight. I appreciate that. Jimbo Slice says, what's up, Chris? Well, not much. Just crossing my fingers that we don't have another internet outage. That was kind of rough last week. But, hey, we're back this week, and so far things seem to be going pretty good. Shane says, good evening from Seals Family Farm in Mount Herman, Louisiana. Thank you for joining tonight. Good to see you. George Kaiser's here, says hello to everyone. Hello, George. Andrew, so recently processing some birds from somewhere almost 2 years old. Oh, some were almost 2 years old. A lot of them had black marks around the vent, and a couple had large masses near the vent, age or something else. That's probably mostly just age. I mean, that's not that uncommon at all. I've noticed that on a lot of birds I process. I'm not really sure exactly what causes it. Cut it away if it bothers you, but it's not anything to worry about. It's pretty normal. Jimbo Slice says, just finished up the quail barn, stoked for next spring. Awesome. Always good to have those things knocked off your list, huh? Carolina Kind Family Homestead says, cheers, Chris and the chat. Cheers to you too. Andrew said, quail, by the way. Yeah, I knew that you were talking about quail. Or I assumed you were talking about quail anyway. Jacob LaFave, is that it? LaFave or LaFave? I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. Anyway, says hello. Hello to you too. Let's see where we at here. Carolina Kind Homestead, glad it's working tonight. Yeah, no kidding. That was a nightmare last week. I saw it got disconnected, and I kept waiting for it to reconnect. I went in and rebooted my router. Didn't fix the issue. I got reconnected for a minute, and then it disconnected again. And then I don't know what the issue was with the internet, but it was down. So I thought, well, I'll join on my phone, create a live on my phone, and then nobody could hear me on my phone. I couldn't figure out why I couldn't get sound. I just had to end up canceling, but it was rough. But anyway, we figured it. Like I said, we're back this week, so we're past that. Verna says the black around the vent is a gland that colors the eggs as they come out and give the protection. Well, that could be right. Warchild says, hi, all. Hello to you too. Desert Homestead from Phoenix, Arizona. Good to see you. And Andy Dundas, I think it is. Hey, everybody from Middleville, Michigan. Good to see you. Andrew says latch, LOL. What are we laughing at? Did I miss something? Oh, you're talking to Verna. Okay. Caesar says, hello, Chris and everyone. Good to see you too, Caesar. And the chat has slowed down. So this is, again, the place that I should always have something prepared to talk about, and I don't. I guess you guys have seen some of the craziness going on in the world recently, though. The CEO of United Healthcare getting taken out. That was a terrible thing. I don't have any love for the insurance companies, but that's not the way you resolve disputes. That's just a terrible thing to do to somebody. Jacob says, just candled my eggs in the incubator. From my own eggs, 32 of 34 were fertile. So hopefully going to have a good hatch. The new Brincia, I think it is impressive so far. Well, hopefully you do have a good hatch. 32 of 34, that's good fertility, so hopefully everything goes well. And yeah, I agree. I kind of like the Brincia. I think it's Brincia. Or is it Yeah, I think it is. I can't remember how to pronounce that. I always get it wrong. Don from South Central Illinois says, just got home. Well, hey, thanks for joining us. George says, terrible thing or terrible thing. I don't know the difference. It was a terrible thing that happened. It was a terrible thing that, he ended up shooting that guy and killing him. I mean, it's a terrible thing. That's not how you resolve issues. That's not how you should resolve issues. If you want to create change, you don't go about it with violence. That's just not the way to do it. Well, not in that situation. I mean, I guess there is a time where, you may have to, but not there. George says, I put a couple of Cadbury cream-sized eggs in the incubator. See what comes of it. Yeah, good luck with that, because they usually those are going to be double yolk eggs. They usually don't hatch, or if they do hatch, they don't do well. You have some deformities or something like that, but it's possible. Jacob says, I'll say Brincia until I die, LOL. Yeah, I may be pronouncing it wrong. I can't remember if it's Brincy. I think it is Brincy now that I think about it, but I can't remember. Let's see. Is that Carmel? Is that your name? Carmel says, how is Max doing? He's doing great. He was in here just a minute ago, but I think he's left now. When I start talking to the computer, usually he walks away. But he's doing great. He's just fine. No problems right now. Starting to slow down a little bit. He's going on 8 years old and just starting to show some signs of maybe some like arthritis and stuff. When he gets up, he's a little stiff for a minute or two and has a hard time climbing. He can jump still, like jump up onto the couch, but he has a hard time climbing up onto it with his back legs, getting him up there. That's a little difficult for him right now. But, he's 8 years old, so it's kind of to be expected. David Lister says 9 New Zealands will be weaned by Christmas. Our California does and white New Zealand doe will be due about the same time. 77 jumbo white wing eggs in the GQF going to lockdown tomorrow. Oh, pardon me. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry. I've been losing a little bit of sleep. It's catching up to me. So, wow, you got a lot going on there, David. 9 New Zealand's weaned, another doe due, and 77 eggs in the incubator. Wow. Hopefully it all goes well. Did I miss something with George's comment? Did I not read it correctly? Terrible thing or terrible thing. I don't know if there's more. I'm not getting it. I don't get it. Maybe I'm a little dense sometimes. That's all. That's all I can say. A jack of all trades says, can you tell a difference in 1-year-old quail and 10-week-old quail as far as eating, like tenderness, etc.? I've never noticed much of a difference in younger birds, older birds, or not like some of the other animals. It doesn't seem like there's, the bigger birds do have a little bit of fat on them sometimes, where the younger birds usually don't. But I have never noticed a huge difference in them. Okay. I was making sure that wasn't an important text, and it was not. Somebody trying to give me some kind of funding that I do not need. Thank you. Andrew says, interesting. Lash eggs aren't actually eggs. Lash eggs are pockets of infection shaped like an egg by passing through the bird's egg factory. Okay. Yeah, you may be right. George Kaiser says, I watched your quail grinding video, Chris. To be honest, seems more trouble than it's worth doing. Yeah, well, it may be. And it's definitely not for everybody. I agree. I'm hoping that it extends our dog's life a little bit. He seems to be doing pretty good. Andrew says, but no harm to the meat with a question mark. Yeah. So yeah, no harm to the meat. Okay, with that, all that, the black markings and the lumps. No, I would, cut them away a little bit, but it's not going to affect the rest of the meat. The meat's fine. Caesar says, in the middle of hunting season here in New Jersey. Yeah, it is still hunting season here in Missouri too, bow season actually. And then there's alternative methods that may have started already. I don't remember if it started yet or it's getting ready to, which you can use a crossbow, but you can also use black powder rifle during an alternative season. But it's really past the peak rut, and the deer movement has slowed down quite a bit. So I don't know. I don't know if I'll get back out this season or not. I did not get a deer this year. Didn't even see a decent buck. Saw a couple of spikes, a couple of smaller ones, and some does. But I didn't really get an opportunity at all. My cousin got a nice one, a really biggest one either one of us have ever shot out there, and it was a really good deer. But I did not. Verna says, no, there is, Andrew, no, there is no harm to the meat. I agree. Desert Homestead says, odd question. When you decide to call a baby quail or rabbit, how do you do the deed? Same as full growns, cervical dislocation, or something different? No, pretty much the same. There's not really a difference in the process. Now, young birds, a lot of the times I'll just I'll wrap them in a paper towel just so I don't have to see the whole, everything that's going on there. And I'll just kind of pull and pop their heads off. It's kind of, it's not pleasant, but it's, the quickest, most humane way I know to do it. So, that's kind of how I do it. I very seldom, if ever, have to call a baby rabbit, though. That's unusual. Verna says, just don't eat that part. Usually you can just take them out like eggs. Oh, yeah, about the meat being, yeah, just don't eat that part. I agree with that, too. Jacob says, every European review I've seen of the Brincy say Brincy. I blame Zach for how I say it. Yeah, well, I said Brincy that's how I pronounced it for a long time. And then somebody, I don't remember who it was, so they actually called the company and asked them, and it was supposed to be pronounced Brincy. But I kind of forget that every time. Jimbo says, after hatching, do you just put extra males in a hutch for grow out? Also, how many males do you house in the same hutch at one time? Had some issues with fighting. Well, when I'm growing birds out, I'm usually processing them right at 8 weeks. So there's really not much time for them to start fighting. I just throw all my birds into a hutch. If I want to keep some of them out as breeders, whenever I go to process, I just pick out the ones I want as breeders, and they move off to a separate hutch, and the rest of them all get processed. So I couldn't tell you exactly how many roosters I keep. I don't move all roosters by themselves necessarily to a hutch. I just kind of put all my the whole hatch in there. And sometimes I'll pull out some to keep for breeders earlier, but usually I wait until it's time to process, and then I just process everything but the ones I'm going to keep for breeders, if that makes sense. So I'm not sure if that answers your question necessarily, but that's kind of how I do it. If you need more information, let me know. I'll readdress that if I need to. George says, I have to dispatch about a couple dozen quail, but it's just too hot. They're eating too much food, so I have to do it in the next couple of days. Yeah, I've been there before. Look at I showed a video one time on how to just breast them out, basically. That's pretty fast, pretty quick. You can get that done. You can go through a bunch of birds really fast that way. And there's really not a whole lot. I mean, your waist, kind of like the legs, you can skin the legs out if you want to, but honestly, there's not a whole lot there. I usually don't mess with it. Verna says, Jimbo, usually the fighting is the males trying to mate each other. You can house them all together in grow out cages. Well, that's true. You do see some of that happening too, because the males are just trying to breed whatever's around them. I mean, they're hitting they're like teenagers basically. They're hitting that age where the hormones are taking over. Jacob says, I was lucky to get a buck during our normal gun season, Wisconsin, and we have another doe only hunt going on until this Sunday that I will go sit and see what comes through. Yeah, I usually don't shoot does. In fact, I don't ever shoot does where I hunt because I hunt my uncle's property. We have deer there, but it's not a huge abundance of deer. We're not overpopulated. We don't have, we don't have way too many does or anything like that going around. So, in order to preserve the, conservation reasons, letting the does have babies and the babies grow up so we can kind of increase the population a little bit there and not, completely take it out. I avoid shooting the does. And I know I try to shoot only older, more mature bucks. Every once in a while, I get one that's kind of on the verge of being more mature, but I want to give them a chance to breed, pass on their genes before I take them out, if that makes sense. That's what I try to do. Jacko, I'm not judging, by the way. I mean, shoot doe. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I just don't personally where I hunt. A jack of all trades says, thanks. I'm experienced in chicken, but new to quail. I raise chickens for meat and eggs, but only eat the 3-year-olds in soup or dumplings, etc. Haven't gotten to the point of retiring breeder quail yet. Yeah, it's all good. You learn things as you go. It's a little bit, there are similarities, but there is a difference between quail and chickens. So, Andrew says, has anyone else noticed that if you process quail in the winter, they have a more gamey flavor? I haven't really noticed that. That's not been my experience. I think that quail do have a little bit more, I don't know, some people would call it gamey. I don't really think it's gamey, but a little bit, more of a, I think to me, it's a minerally type flavor. It's kind of like Dove or what else is, wild quail, kind of similar to that. They have this kind of minerally earthy kind of flavor to them. And I haven't noticed it being stronger different times of the year. That may be, but I haven't noticed it. Mother Wolf says, yes, we made it. Love your Q&A session. We just did a video on sexy newborn babies. The whole pinprick versus slit thing isn't a certainty, so we decided to share some perspective on how to be sure. On sexing baby quail, is that what you're saying? Newborn babies? I have never found a way to sex newborn baby quail that was at all accurate, really. Now, the good thing is I raise jumbo browns, jumbo meat makers, whatever you want to call it, pharaohs, the same bird. So, really by the time they hit like 2 weeks old, they're feather sexable at that point, by the time their feathers grow in. Andrew says, when I say winter, I mean Alaska winter, -10 to -30. Well, that may make a difference on it. I don't know. S.O. Swanson says, and greetings from the Mississippi Delta. Good to see you. Thank you for joining us tonight. George says, hello, S.O. Swanson. I've realized I'm on your Facebook page. Me and my wife wanted to go to the Next Quail Con. Hopefully you guys can make it. I haven't heard whether Zach's going to do another one this year or not. There was some question. He's got a lot going on right now, family-wise too. So there was questioning whether he was going to be able to do another one this next year. We'll see though as we get closer. He hasn't made any decisions on that as far as I know. George says quail have a strong iron taste, in my opinion. I agree. I think so too. And in fact, I like it. Most people I know that have tried quail like quail. And so I hesitate to say that because to me, they have a similar kind of a liver type flavor, which is the iron. That's what you're tasting. And it's not super strong. It's not like liver, quite as strong as liver, but it does resemble that. Jacob says, I haven't shot a doe in 10 years, been very lucky to harvest a buck just about every year. But this year we have had an abundance of does, so I will take one this year if I have the opportunity and can it. Oh, and you're saying you're going to take one and can it, like as in put it in jars and cook it, pressure cook it and all that, or pressure can it and all that. So I think that's what you're saying anyway. So yeah, I don't blame you. That makes sense. We don't have, there's parts of Missouri, parts in the area that probably do have abundance of doe. Where I hunt, there's not an abundance. There's not a huge amount of them. So I don't feel the need to thin them out. If there were, I would have no problems doing that. It's meat in the freezer still. But yeah, I usually, This is the first year. It was my worst season in years. I didn't see a single buck. My cousin saw several of them, so he was getting lucky where he was. We're hunting the same property, but different parts of it. We don't sit right next to each other, He saw several. He was getting pretty lucky with them, but I did not see a single one. I had a tree stand location picked out, had a camera out there. Lots of activity on the camera, bucks coming by and everything. And then, like, as soon as deer season opened, they just quit. They just all quit coming by. So who knows? Mother Wolf says no baby bunnies. I don't know what that means. I don't know what you're talking about. George says, then you'll find my real name isn't George. Hey, that's all right. My real name is Chris. Actually, it's Christopher, but everybody pretty much calls me Chris. Except for my family. They call me Christopher. Andrew says, S.O. Swanson, no. We dispatch outside and then bring them in to rest. In the process, we spatchcock. So I also skin outside, and she does the rest. They are processed fast. Yeah, it doesn't, really, no matter how you process your quail, it doesn't take too long. They're not that big. They're pretty easy to do. And I have done that plenty of times where skin them out, spatchcock them, basically, pull everything out, and you're done. And it's not that hard. It's pretty easy, but it's way faster to just pop the breast out. You don't even have to skin them. You just pop the breast out, and that's way easier. Berna says, got to forgive Chris, Mother Wolf, as his mind doesn't always understand. Oh, that's okay. No, that's all good. I just didn't know. I didn't know what we were talking about. I was a little lost on that. Yeah, I thought you were telling me to forget. See, it didn't work that way either. I didn't understand. I was thinking you were telling me to forgive, but I see Mother Wolf Rabbity say all is forgiven. Sometimes it's hard for me to, I try to do my best to stay on, one chat after another. Sometimes I miss one or for whatever reason. Sometimes I just don't show up either. So I don't know. Buck Reynolds says, hello, everyone. Good to see you, Buck. Thanks for joining. George says, I use my real name on Facebook at least. Yeah, that's all good. Jacob says, yes, sir, I can a lot of my meat. I used to think it was nasty until I actually tried it and tasted it, just like pot roast in a jar. Yeah, I can imagine it is. I have a weird hang up on canned meat. I don't know what it is. Some of it doesn't bother me. Like I can do like those, I don't know, it's a Campbell's chunky soups that have meat in them. That doesn't bother me so much, but just the idea of canned like meat, I don't know what. It's just a weird thing on my part. I need to get over it. It's my deal. There's nothing wrong with it. I know that. But Jimbo says, have you ever seasoned your birds before you freeze? We tried some lemon pepper and hickory smoke. Still yet to grill it up. I don't think I've ever done that with quail. I have. We did one time. Excuse me. I guess this isn't the same thing at all, but I have done it where we smoked some rabbits and then we put them in what do you call them? Vacuum seal bags with some butter and some herbs. Vacuum sealed that up, and then when you thaw them out, basically you just put the whole bag, sealed and all, in like a pot of hot water to heat it through, and that was pretty good. But I don't think I've ever seasoned them before I froze them. Now. Verna says, to George Kaiser, send me a friend request to my real name. I'm in the kitchen group and in Lifestyles. I don't know why I read that because it wasn't to me. But anyway, I read it. All Clean Exterior says, what age do you butcher quail? 6 to 10 weeks with a question mark. That wasn't a statement. 6 to 10 weeks was your question. Yeah, usually, it varies. I process sometimes like whenever I replace my breeders, I process all my breeders and they're, a year and a half to 2 years old sometimes older. But usually if I'm doing a run just for meat processing, it's, right around 8 weeks, somewhere right around in there. I try not to go too much further than that because, right about 8 weeks is about the time they hit, full maturity, they're full grown. And then at that point, you're just wasting feed. It's not It's not really, I mean, they may grow a little bit, but the feed conversion's not that good. So they don't really gain that much more based on what they're eating. Your best conversion is probably up to about 8 weeks, roughly. So that's when I do it. Mother Wolf says the video is on sexing baby bunnies, not quail. Oh, I gotcha. Okay, never mind. That makes perfect sense now. I'm sorry. Now I get it. I totally understand everything you were saying, and I was lost there for a minute. Okay, so yes, you're right. Sexing baby bunnies, that's actually not too bad. You said that I remember now, the vent and the whatever, however you phrase it, it's not always 100% accurate. I found it to be pretty accurate, but you're right. It is a little bit tricky. I'm not sure what other tricks you have on how you would sex them if not for that. That's the only thing I know. So I'm kind of curious now. I'll have to go check out your video on it, I suppose. Let's see if I can find that real quick. Oh, let's see. There it is. Not the video, but your channel. I'll see if I can find that after a while. Yeah, I'll go back to that one. Where are we at here? Resident Alien says, hey, so Silver Creek here. Changed your name to Resident Alien? That's a pretty good show, actually. I don't know if anybody watches that show, but I kind of find it pretty funny. Resident Alien says, we do burrito in a jar, just pour it in a pan, heat, wrap in a tortilla, yum. So, okay. That's what we're talking about, canned meat, I think. Jacob says, I have the same thing until I had the same thing until I had canned bear meat, and holy cow, is that the best. I've had bear. It's been a very long time, and I don't remember what it tasted like. But, I mean, I was a kid. I was a young kid. George says, I'm a member of the Slightly Rednecked Facebook page. I think you mean Facebook group, probably. I just realized. Yeah, I got to apologize to you guys because I'm the worst at social media. I never get in there. I never post anything. And if you guys have me on your, if you're in my personal friends list, you know that's probably true. I mean, I very seldom, if ever, post anything on Facebook. I'm just terrible about it. S.O. Swanson says, how big of a jar does it take to put a bear in? That would be a big jar for the whole bear, wouldn't it? Resident Alien says, the biggest mason jars in the West. Jacob says, it put up a heck of a fight, but I managed to jam it into 21-pint jars. And there's 340 Quail Farm. You've been joining lately. Thank you for doing that. We appreciate it. Says, hey, Chris and everyone, Mount Dora, Florida, checking in. Awesome. Good to see you. Resident Alien says, I have. It's a funny show. Yeah, I deleted my YouTube channel. Oh, no. Resident Alien says, anyone had kangaroo? Delicious. I had some kangaroo jerky one time. It was okay. It didn't stand out. I don't really remember anything like. Resident Alien says they eat it like deer over in the Aussie land. Well, I imagine. Yeah, Jacob says I've had kangaroo jerky, but that's about it. Me too. I had kangaroo jerky one time. I don't remember it being exceptionally good, but it wasn't bad. It was fine. Most things that, most animals, they're either poultry and things taste like chicken, and four-legged animals, typically either taste like a lot of those mammals, they taste like chicken. I mean, it's just basically what we're used to. We eat, in America, we eat chicken and beef. So, deer is similar to beef. They're the same kind of animal. Pretty much everything else we can relate to chicken. Now, if we were different, if there was other things that we ate most frequently, everything would taste like squirrel maybe, or whatever. I mean, it's just what we're used to that we can kind of compare it to. But, and I don't remember kangaroo jerky being any significantly different than beef jerky. It was maybe a little bit leaner and a little bit whiter, I guess, white meat kind of. But I don't remember it being I don't remember much about it, honestly. Andrew says, we can taco meat just to have it ready to go. Up here, everyone cans everything: beef, chicken, moose, caribou, salmon, pike, pretty much any meat you get. Well, I imagine if I lived up there, I would too. Yeah, it makes sense. I freeze most of my meat. I can most of my vegetables. I don't really, I've never tried it. But George says, kangaroo is tough, highly overrated, good for the tourists, LOL. Yeah, I can imagine. So what you're saying is it's really not a big thing in Australia. It's just kind of something you sell to the tourists. You just get them to eat it. Mother Wolf Rabbitry says, we just constructed an outdoor dry age cold smoker for our hogs and lambs. Considering putting some whole rabbit carcasses in there also. Have you ever had cold smoked rabbit before? Any tips? I've never had cold smoked. I mean, I smoked it on a smoker, just like regular smoke, like you would smoke anything else, like a chicken, basically, like you would smoke a chicken. And it was pretty good that way. But I don't think I've never had cold smoked. In fact, I don't think I've ever had any, other than maybe salmon. I think I've had cold smoked salmon. But other than that, I don't know that I've had any kind of cold smoked meat. Jacob says, I'm going to try to can salmon next year and see how that is. Always have a ton of salmon to preserve at the end of the season. I'm not sure. It almost seems to me, now I know it can be done because there's you can buy canned salmon in the stores, but I don't know how you would do it without it turning to just mush, because you'd have to pressure can it, and it seems like it would just fall apart and turn to mush. It doesn't have, I mean, it's a little bit sturdier than other fish, but it's still fish, I don't know. And I've never tried it, though, so I may be completely wrong. Andrew says, we started freeze-drying quail. Is excellent. We pressure-cooked 18 birds, stripped and shredded the meat. Almost didn't make it to storage bags. Good, crunchy snack. Nice. Mother Wolf Rabbitry is in Tennessee. It's a good state. All right, how are we doing on time? Oh, yeah, we got plenty of time left. We're 30 minutes in. Verna says that quail and rabbits are both great in the freeze dryer. I've never had anything out of a freeze dryer that I thought was that great, honestly. I've tried a couple of different freeze-dried things, mostly from Verna, but honestly, I don't know. It's just not, I don't know. It's not my thing, and the cost with them is, ridiculously expensive in my opinion. Homestead Matters says, howdy all, late to the party, but worth it for the custard and coconut macaroons cooling down now. Oh, I do like a good coconut macaroon. It's a macaroon, isn't it? Yeah. Says, hope everyone is doing well. I'm doing well. Hopefully you are too. Andrew says, salmon is tricky to can. I haven't done it, but people here have perfected canning salmon. So yeah, just get with somebody. I'm sure there's plenty of people around there that know how to do it. It's abundant there, right? Well, more abundant than it is anywhere else, I guess. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to learn that skill. Mother Wolf Rabbitry says, how many babies you got right now, Chris? Any new arrivals? Well, right now, I've just got the 5 silver fox babies. And I did breed my Tamuk doe Saturday. So, we're 4 weeks away from that. I'm kind of curious to see how big of a litter she's going to have. But that's it. George says, wild kangaroos are like wild pigs, full of bacteria. Farmed kangaroo meat is pricey and exported as a luxury product or sold in touristy type restaurants. Yeah, that makes sense. There we go. George says, I'll find you in the SR Facebook group later, Verna. There you go. You guys can connect there. Resident Alien says, I need to try canning fish. Haven't ventured there yet. Yeah, I don't know the first thing about canning fish. Like I said, it just seems to me like it would just turn to mush. I don't know. Does anybody here know how to can fish? I've never even, I know it can be done, like I said, because you can buy canned fish. Makes sense. But now that I think about it, the only canned fish I ever see is like tuna, mackerel, or salmon. That's it. I don't think I've ever seen anything else canned as far as fish go. And boy, if you had a jar break, oh man, that would stink up your kitchen, wouldn't it? I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure how to do it. George Kaiser says, I have to find you from your first name, Verna. Taking too long in the background. I'll do it when I can focus. There you go. And her last name is Young. There she says it too. George, last name is Young. Excuse me. Let me grab a drink. I got dust in my throat. There we go. Let's see where we at here. Jacob says that, let's see, I do smoke some salmon and vacuum seal it for the freezer. Yeah, that's a good way. Smoked salmon's really good. Verna says, Tommy, try making fish jerky. It is great. Yeah, that doesn't sound good at all. I don't know. Resident says, I'm smoked fish to jerky. Love it. Yeah, okay, smoked. That makes more sense. But, Don says sardines. Yeah, you're right. There's sardines. That's another fish that is canned. Andrew says dry fish is excellent, especially if smoked dried. Nice. I got to tell you guys a story about this is a fish story. It's kind of funny, actually. When I was, I was probably just graduated high school, maybe a freshman in college. I went to college for a couple of years. I never graduated college, but I was probably a freshman in college. And a buddy of mine had a foreign exchange student from Russia coming. They were looking at hosting, his parents were looking at hosting this exchange student from Russia. So we went to a couple of events there because him and I were real good friends. We hung out all the time. We went to a couple of events there before they, finalized that. This just kind of sets it up. So anyway, one of the first ones we went to was I was taking a semester of Russian in college, and it was the Russian teacher that kind of connected all these families with their host families and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, he was my professor at college. He was hosting a thing at his house where all these exchange students from Russia, they were all friends that had come over together, I think. They all knew each other anyway, where it was like a big party kind of thing to get to know them and introduce them to some Americans. And my buddy and I were the only Americans there. So anyway, my buddy and I were going to this party. We're, going to go meet all these Russian exchange students. We want to make a good impression. So we dress up and, pretty nice. I mean, wearing suits basically. Well, everybody else is in like jeans and t-shirts, and they thought we were some kind of mob or mafia or something like that. So that was kind of funny. We got over that. So anyway, then one of the adults, the Russian adults, comes up to us with these hors d'oeuvre trays, and they're like, "Oh, this is a famous Russian. All the Russians love this stuff." And it's like this little cracker had something on it, and I couldn't really tell what it was, but we both took one and popped it in our mouth, and we both looked at each other like, "Oh my gosh, what did we just eat?" Well, it was some kind of salty fish. I don't know what it was, like fish paste thing with an onion, slice of raw onion on a cracker. It was the worst thing, one of the worst things I've ever tasted. Well, the Russian kids later told us nobody likes that stuff. Nobody eats that in Russia. It's like an old person only feed. So yeah, that's my story about the worst fish I ever ate. It was probably canned fish. That's probably why it was all mush. Resident Alien says, I do draw the line at Luda fish. I've heard of that before. Says, I can't handle that one, LOL, but maybe wasn't a good cook, so I'm sure I'll try it again. I don't know about that. I've heard of that. I used to like sardines quite a bit when I was younger. I don't really care for them as much anymore. I mean, they're okay, but they're not really that great. Mother Wolf Rabbitry says, are you using your rabbit manure for compost or throwing straight in the garden this year? I usually just throw it straight in the garden. Sometimes I'll throw it in the compost bins if I don't have any garden beds that need it right now. But usually I don't even bother composting. I just throw it straight in. Teresa says, I bought canned clams. Well, yeah, but clams aren't really fish. I mean, there's a different, like oysters, clams, mussels, all that kind of stuff. It's not really fish, in my opinion. Verna made fish jerky in the dehydrator. And yeah, that doesn't sound good to me. I don't know. Maybe it is. I'd be willing to try it, I suppose. George says mackerel as well. Yeah, I said mackerel, though. I got that one. Resident Alien says smoked fish slathered in dark coffee makes some great candy fish jerky. I'm not a coffee drinker either, so I'm not sure about that one. Homestead Matters says, we're hoping for a decent garden this year with quail poop amendments and learn to can the extras. So many recalls in food these days, hard to trust stores and more. Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, I've got some videos on canning. I mean, I've done canning videos before, so if you need them, look through my channel for canning videos. Canning is really not that hard. And your low acid fruits fruits and vegetables you'll have to pressure can, but anything that's higher acid or high sugar like jellies and jams, pickles, tomatoes, all that kind of stuff, you can just water bath can, and that's super easy. Pressure canning is a little intimidating if you've never done it before, but it's really not that bad once you get over the fear of it blowing up, which is highly unlikely. It's not going to happen probably. You just follow. I mean, it's pretty easy to keep that from happening, and there's all kinds of safety things on modern canners. It's not that big a deal. Buck Reynolds says tablespoon of salt put in a pressure cooker for about an hour. What are we talking about there? Tablespoon of salt and what in the pressure cooker? Surely not just a tablespoon of salt in the pressure cooker. And I know I probably should know this already, but I don't know. I'm not sure what we're talking about. Jacob says, I do a maple brown sugar glaze on my smoked fish. I'm still perfecting my Cajun recipe. I'm getting close. Yeah, that sounds pretty good, though. Resident England says, Cajun fish jerky. I don't know. I don't know about the fish jerky. Oh, let's see where we at here. Andrew says, my neighbor smokes his salmon, then cans it in oil with a jalapeno pepper. That's probably pretty good. Resident Alien says, blackened or Creole style. The fish, I guess. I don't know. Teresa says, caviar. Yeah, but that's fish eggs. That's not fish. So that's still different, but I don't know. How do they can that stuff safely? I don't know, honestly. Verna says, when I did fish jerky, I sold what I had left at QuailCon, and Grafted Branch bought it and loved it. Was disappointed I didn't have a lot of it. Dawn says, LOL, Chris, the look on your face. Yeah. Oh, yeah, AC/DC shirt. This is Steve says, great band, love the shirt. Yeah, this was, my wife bought this for some kind of Halloween costume a couple years ago, and I was like, well, I'll just still wear that. I'm an AC/DC fan. I like AC/DC. All their stuff sounds the same, and I like it. It's good. I do like some AC/DC. Mother Wolf Rabbitry says, this year is a challenging year for us, so we're going to attempt to see if our family can survive on what we raise and grow alone. Our only exceptions will be beef, dairy, beans, rice, salt, and pepper. Yeah, that's pretty much. Now, you can grow your own beans. I mean, I don't know how much room you have, but beans are pretty prolific, so you could grow your own beans. That's not that hard. They're actually pretty easy to grow. And depending on what kind of beans you want, I'd have to look into it. I don't know if other beans all fall into that, but like green beans, for example, they add nitrogen to the soil as opposed to, they're like nitrogen fixers. So it's a good thing to grow them like right behind something or right in front of something else. Like grow them in a row, and then the next year grow a nitrogen heavy plant like a lot of your lettuces and those kinds of things you can grow in there. And you don't have to do a whole lot of amending because the beans already fix the soil for you, if that makes sense. But if you don't have a whole lot of room, then it may make sense to just buy beans because they're cheap. They're super cheap. So that may be easier to do. Verna says, careful where you buy your beef. Maybe. Resident Alien likes the Creole. I do like Creole food. It's pretty good. Mother Wolf Rabbitry says, I buy from a local butcher. I get 15 pounds of beef trim for $33. Last our family for of 2 weeks. That's a pretty good deal. We have butchers here, but they're not that cheap. In fact, a lot of them are kind of expensive, honestly. Resident Alien says, local butcher here as well, so much better. I'm scared to buy meat at the store after finding out that they make chicken meat in a lab from cancer cells to rapid grow individual pieces of meat. It's disgusting. Yeah, I don't know if that's actually happening like in America on a wide scale. It doesn't seem, I mean, I know what you're talking about, but I don't think that's actually happening. But I don't really, we produce our own chicken, so we don't really buy chicken. Resident Alien says, legit Google Lab made meat. It's approved so far for fast food use as far as we know. Yeah, that's a terrible thing. Hopefully that will change with the, the new food czar coming in. I don't know if you guys have heard that, but hopefully that will get straightened out. I'm kind of excited about that. David says, we were stationed in the Philippines and we went to an open air meat market. On the way back past a butcher, the wife asked to stop. It smelled good. I said no. Told her later it was Rover on a spit. Yeah, that's it may have smelled good. It probably tastes just fine, but yeah, I don't want it. I don't know. I'm not into that. S.O. Swanson says, no sense of adventure, huh? Hey, there's Andy Rabbit. Good to see you. Buck Reynolds says, put fish in a jar and a tablespoon of salt, pressure cook for about an hour. Oh, okay. That's how you can fish, honestly. How do you keep it, though, from just disintegrating, just falling apart in the jar? Or does it? Andy Rabbit says, I'm on a visitation with the granddaughter mother. Hopefully that's going well. Resident Alien says, it is 100% happening. It's approved for fast food. I'm going to have to, let me Google that so I can remember to look it up. Let's see. Yeah, there's two companies in California, Upside Foods and Good Meat, to sell their lab-grown chicken. I'll have to read more into that later and check that out. George says, I've eaten dog a few times in Asia. At least I was told it was dog. Resident Alien says, I hope it changes with RFK and Joel Salatin taking over. Yeah, that's the hope, isn't it? Is that we get rid of a lot of these, artificial dyes and all that kind of crap that they put in our food. Jacob says, me and the wife buy either a quarter beef or half beef every other year or so. It depends on how I do hunting and fishing in the year. I have not actually bought. I did buy a pig one time. Went in with a buddy on a pig, farm-raised pig, and it was terrible. It wasn't good at all. And I don't know if that was where we got it from or if that was the butcher, the way they processed it. I don't know what it was, but it just wasn't good. Mother Wolf Rabbitry says, yes, we broke down and bought a grocery store chicken. Even the kids didn't want to eat it. It was so goofy and way too soft from all the chemical brine they used to preserve it. I got nauseated after. I haven't actually, excuse me, good grief. I haven't actually bought chicken in a while, but the last time I bought chicken, I bought like chicken thighs or something like that. And they were good. They were fine. I didn't have any problems with them. But interesting. Bill Cox says, being from Georgia and living 6 miles from a processing plant, I can guarantee that most chicken isn't lab grown. Oh, I know that's fact. We have chicken processing plants around here too, but the difference between most and still some, I want all my chicken to not be lab grown. Resident Alien says, I did a podcast about lab chicken and safe food to eat on my Rumble channel. Interesting. George says, Chris, you're funny. You always put a positive spin on every comment in here. Well, I do my best. Sometimes there's not positive things to say, but most of the time, something positive. David says, I had escargot in Germany. Will that count as an adventure? I had escargot on a cruise ship one time. Tried it. It wasn't bad. It was okay. S.O. Swanson says, more adventurous than me for sure. Resident Alien says, more adventurous than me as well. So, yeah, definitely. Yeah, Verna, you're going to get me on this one too. Because Verna says, but David Lister, you eat escargot and you won't eat a quail balut. No, I'm not eating that either. George says snails are good. Love them. Jacob says, must have been how the pig was raised. I've raised pig and bought them a couple of times, and they have been great. Yeah, I was really looking forward to it, too. We were excited. My cousin and I went in on it and bought it and had it, at a local processor, and they processed it, and it just wasn't good, though. I mean, it didn't necessarily taste really bad. It was just, there was no flavor. It was just bland and it just wasn't good at all. Resident Alien says, most correct. It's only approved for fast food at the moment. It shouldn't be approved for anything, in my opinion. That's just a bad idea. David says it's about the consistency of mushrooms. Yeah, it is. And the one I had, it was like heavily, like lots of garlic and Parmesan cheese and stuff like that on it. So, I mean, it tastes like garlic and Parmesan cheese, which I like. Chick-fil-A uses lab meat, legit 100%. Really? I find that hard to believe, but maybe it's true. Well, I don't know. A quick Google search says, no, Chick-fil-A is not switching to lab-grown meat. TikTok videos that claim the fast food chain is switching to cultivated meat were false. I don't know who this is, KHOU 11 Verify team found that the companies allowed to sell lab-grown meat in the U.S. do not produce enough to supply fast food chains. Chick-fil-A insisted changing its chicken to meat, a new standard called no antibiotics important to human medicine. I don't know. This means that sick animals will not be treated with drugs. They are commonly used to treat human illnesses. Chick-fil-A says it will still enforce the whatever requirement and will not use meat with fillers, hormones, steroids, or artificial preserves. Okay, so that's good to know. Hopefully that's true. I'll have to look more into that later, but hopefully that's true because I do like some Chick-fil-A every once in a while, man. That stuff is good. SS Swanson says, if that's not a reason to take fast food off your menu. Yeah, no kidding. You should probably. I still eat some fast food every once in a while. Not as much as we used to. Mother Wolf Rabbitry says, it's getting pretty serious out there. Our son has taken an initiative to start hunting to fill our freezer with fresh venison. Lack of food or lack of unaltered food is definitely our struggle. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. It's tough to produce or hunt enough to fulfill all your needs. I mean, it can be done, but it's a lot of work, a whole lot of work. Jacob says probably a grain-fed pig. Yeah, you may be right. I don't know. I would think if it was grain-fed, it'd have more fat on it and would be tasting better. But maybe you're right. That may be it. But I'm not huge on most. I mean, pork's not my favorite anyway. I don't really like pork chops. I do like those pork loins. Those are pretty good. And bacon, of course. I love bacon. But ham, sometimes it's good. Sometimes I could just take it or leave it. It's not my favorite. Resident Alien says, I'm serious. This isn't something that I heard on Facebook. This was something that I found doing my own hours and hours of research to put in a video that I made. Oh, I believe you. I mean, I'm not saying you're wrong necessarily, but I mean, I did a Google search. It says, no, they're not. But I don't know. I'll have to look into it more. I don't know what sources are extremely reliable on that stuff, so it's kind of hard to know. George says, snails actually have no taste. It's the garlic or cheese sauce that you taste. Yeah, that's pretty much what it tasted like. Resident Alien says, I'll see if I can find the website that's inaccurate. Yeah, if you do find the website, don't put the www dot and the .com at the end because it won't let you post the link. Just post the website name. We can add that to the end of it ourselves. Jake the Snake says, I found my pig eating ribs of an unidentified animal. An hour later, my neighbor stopped by asking if I had seen his beagle puppy. No, I had not. Oh, no. Yeah, pigs will eat anything. Yeah. Verna says that, in my opinion, snails are just slugs with shells. That's the reason I won't try them. But yet you'll eat balut. Mother Wolf Rabbitry says to Jake, I'd plead the fifth. Yeah, I agree. Mother Wolf Rabbitry says, I work for a fairly large hog operation in the feeding mill. I mean, like we grind, mix, and ship about 900 tons of feed a day. I can't, for job reasons, say anything bad. Okay. Huh. That's a lot of feed. Let's see. Jacob says, I made most of my pork into sausage. I do a lot of breakfast sausage, chorizo, and hot Italian. Now that sounds pretty good. I do like pork sausage, and I do like pork butt, like pulled pork. That's pretty good, But most of the other pork stuff, I'm like, eh. Rabbit Homesteading says, we do have strict guidelines on medication and antibiotics needed to be out of system before slaughter. Yeah, that's a good policy. Buck says it was a slop-fed hog. Could be. Yeah, Jack of all trades says balut has a ugly, nasty face there. I agree. It's I won't eat that. No. There's not a whole lot of things where I'm like, no, I won't even try that. But that's one of them. George says, is Bovaer? I don't know what that is. Is that a thing as well in the U.S.? I don't know what that is. So I couldn't answer that. Bob says, I had heard about 20 elk that came by daily for a sip of water. Cows are 500, 700 pounds. Thinking about filling a freezer, get about 1/2 of live weight when processed. Oh, you have a herd of, there you go. Oh my goodness, I've got things scrolling fast now. Okay, there we go. Slowed it down. So yeah, I mean, if you can do that legally, yeah, do it. In Missouri, we do have some elk. Not in my area; it's more west or east of us. But it's like a lottery thing. There's only a couple of tags given out a year because it's just not. They've been recently introduced. They're not a huge population of them yet. Let's see. Cal Troy says, glad I finally got a notification from YouTube. Have not seen your videos in my video feed for a long time. Hope you're well. Caleb. Well, thank you. I am doing well, actually. I'm sorry, I got distracted by another one. I am doing well. Hopefully you are too. And thanks for joining us tonight. I don't know why you haven't been getting them in your feed, but I'm still here, still making videos. I have slowed down a little bit. I don't make as many as I used to because I just have a hard time coming up with topics every week. But I do still put out videos. I try to get at least one out every week. Sometimes I miss a week. And then usually do the lives on Thursday evenings. S.O. Swanson says, Bovaer, I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, is a feed additive for cows that reduces methane emission. Huh. And then Verna, looks like she did some Googling. She says it's made from 2 ingredients, nitrate and bio-based alcohol. After suppressing methane production in the stomach, Bovaer is broken down into some natural compounds again, which are already present and processed by the cow's normal digestive and metabolic process. Huh, I've never heard of it. Don't know anything about it. George says, YouTube keeps blocking my comments. Google it, Chris. Supermarkets here are using it. Stifling choice in meat and milk. Interesting. I'll have to look into that too. Yeah, if you try to post a link, YouTube won't let you post it. The only Verna can because she's an admin on a moderator. There we go, on the channel. But nobody else was able to post the links. You'll have to just you have to break it up and post it a different way and just tell us, this is a link and don't put the .com at the end of it so they don't know. Jacob says, Bob Cole, elk is on the list of animals I want to hunt within the next couple of years. Yeah, elk would be a fun one for sure, but boy, you got to be in shape to pack one of those things out, don't you? Mother Wolf Rabbitry says, so I'm wondering if I should go ahead and weed fabric or something else for my garden this year. We are doing 40-foot by 2-foot plot. Any tips for weed and pest control without chemicals? Well, you got basically one option, mulch. And whether that is weed fabric, and if you're going to do weed fabric, get a high quality one, because those cheap ones you buy at, like, I say cheap, none of them are cheap. But anyway, the ones you buy at like the big box stores like Walmart and all that kind of stuff, they're crap. They're terrible. So go to like, I think I've got some in my Amazon shop. You can go to that and you can check out. I've got one listed. There's DeWitt, I think it is the brand. That's a really good high quality one that lasts me for years. and I just burn holes in it to, the hole for the plant to be planted in. That works really well. If you don't want to invest in the weed fabric, if you have another source of mulch, whether it be like wood chips or straw or something like that, you're going to need to go pretty deep. About like that. Several inches, probably 3 or 4 inches worth of mulch on top. That's a great option, and I actually prefer that because it does break down and it feeds your soil. So over time, you get improvements to your soil. But my problem is I can't come up with enough wood chips and things like that to do it. It's just hard for me to source all that stuff. So I went with weed fabric. But I do like using things like straw or wood chips if I can do it. That's the only way I know. The only other way is a lot of manual stuff like pulling weeds and all that kind of stuff, which is just, 40 by 20 foot is your size. Okay, well, that's either way. It doesn't really matter. Look at like Back to Eden gardening. That's Back to Eden is a good documentary that shows you kind of how to, it's basically lasagna gardening or sheet mulching. You can call it that too. It's fantastic. It works great. But my problem is I can't find enough wood chips. I mean, I basically just replace the mulch layer with weed fabric. And I do the same thing. David says to Verna, I'll gladly let you have my share of balut, both goose and quail, LOL. Yeah, I don't blame you. I'm the same way. I'm not eating that balut stuff. Oh my goodness, we're almost out of time. We got like 1 minute left, so I got to wrap this up. Let's see. We got a couple people talking to each other. I'll skip over those. So Swanson says, I'm okay with my beef having gas. Yeah, it doesn't seem to bother me either. So Swanson says, don't be cheap. Press the thumbs up. Thank you. Rabbit Homesteading says, your like to watching ratio is really good compared to others I watch. So that says something about your content. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Resident Alien says, you're right. I misspoke. Chick-fil-A does not. It is being used in California and Washington, D.C. The lab made chicken. Apologies. Hey, no problem. It's all good. We all make mistakes. I make them all the time. So, double check some of the things I say because I may be wrong. Resident Alien says, I think it is upside. That is the mass producing the lab chicken. Oh, that company is the one mass producing it. Yeah, it doesn't seem right at all. There's something wrong with that. Mother Wolf Rabbitry says woodchuck and straw is definitely woodchuck and straw. Wood chips, I think is what that means. Woodchuck. I thought you were going to give us a recipe for woodchuck. I'm like, I don't know if I want to eat a woodchuck either, but maybe. They're probably pretty greasy. But anyway, woodchuck and straw wood chips is definitely doable. Got a chainsaw and wood chipper on the Christmas list this year. I'm a simple gal with simple needs. Yeah, wood chips, I figured it out. The one thing, wood chips are great. They're going to break down really, really fast. And whatever you do not till them into your garden. Use them as top mulch only. They're my favorite, actually. I love them. But I just can't get a good supply of wood chips, so I can't use them. All right. All right. Yeah, I got to wrap this one up, guys. Hey, it's great hanging out with you. Always like it. Always have a good time. Hopefully, see you next week. Should be back next week. The week after is Christmas. I think I'll still be able to do a live that week because Christmas is on Wednesday. But we'll just have to play it by ear. I should know more by next week. So anyway, thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. We'll see you guys hopefully next week. And as always, God bless.